Hi, I'm Shannon with Modern Traditional Quilts. Today we're doing block 8 of our 9-patch Charm Square Sampler Quilt Along. It's episode 9 because our first episode was how to make half square triangles. And today we're going to make the classic Ohio Star block. So I'm excited about this one. Our plan, if you look at how we're progressing, is block number 8 is seen on the quilt assembly diagram, and we've got it in the middle of our quilt also being shown on the center over here. So it's a really pretty block. It's a classic block, and you're going to see it a lot in a lot of designs, and it's a fun one. All right, so if we look at it, I used the light blues as a color scheme. And so you can see how I have it as our light blues on our color scheme. In the center, I put my prints that are heavier in texture and lighter texture on the outside, and even the outside corners I actually did white on white. So it kind of creates this very, very nice focus point on the block. So one of the tips that we have when you're laying out your color palette is to squint at the colors and make sure you like your half square triangle placements. When I originally laid out my light blue block, you see it on the screen, I decided that some of the prints were heavier than others, and I wanted all the heavier prints in the middle and in kind of the diamond look of it. So it's kind of nice to be able to figure out where to put the heavy lines, where the light lines. I put the outside corners, the lighter white on white blocks, and so it really draws your eye into the center of this block. Okay, we're going to use our traditional piecing. We're going to first sew our columns vertically down, and so I'm going to take column number 2, lay it on top of column number 1, and then sew our seam. So here we've got our column number 1 in front of you. I'm going to take these blocks, lay it on top of one another, lining up my edges, getting them aligned all the way down, and keeping the orientations the same. I'll take my pin. I like the pin head to be at the head of the block or the top of the block. That way it's just a funny way for me to help me remember my alignment. And I sometimes want to make sure they're nest. I'll put my pin in this way. My head's up. This is the end up on my quilt block. And now I can take my squares and take it over to the machine and sew my seam. So I'm chain piecing these together. I'm not cutting the thread between the blocks because that acts as a pin for the next row. I know a lot of people say don't backstitch. I still backstitch. My mom taught me how to sew clothing growing up, and you always backstitch so your seam didn't fall apart, so I still backstitch. So the tricky part now is making sure we don't flip any of our half square triangles over. So I'm going to take this over to my layout, finger press my squares open, and then I'm going to take column 3 and layer it on top of column 2. You see my orientation of my block looks good. I'm going to take this one, lay it on top, lay it on top, lay it on top, lay it on top, and now I'm going to sew this vertical seam. I'm going to repeat that with column 4. I've shown how to do that in previous videos, so I don't want to waste your time by showing you something you've seen probably more times than you need to. But if it's your first time doing that, just know that what I'm doing right now with column 3, you're going to also repeat with column 4. Okay, so we've sewn all of the columns together. You can see those seams. Now we need to sew our rows together. But before we do that, we want to make sure that we press the blocks and all the seams in the appropriate directions. We have some points here that are going to be rather bulky. This is a very bulky intersection. We've got about 6 different pieces of fabric going the same way, and if we line that up with this point as well, that's going to be like as many as 12 pieces of fabric. So we got to make sure that our seams go in opposite directions. So we're going to use nested seams, and the way that we're going to do this for this block is identify X marks the spot. In this case, the X is going to be marking the spot at the tips of our star and this tips of the point in the middle of the Ohio block. So The way that you do this is you're going to press the seams opposite one another in each row, and then you're not going to clip the threads. You can use those as your pins. As you line up those straight threads, it's going to line up the seams next to each other, and you're going to be able to get really, really nice sharp points. So I've drawn a yellow line on this one. This shows where the X marks the spot. This is the spot that you want your sewing needle to go through when you sew your rows together. Again, same thing, our threads are not clipped. This straight vertical yellow line will line up with the seam of the block next to it. There's a little thread in the middle, and this will make it so that we don't blunt our points and we get really, really sharp, nice lines. So we're going to piece and press in opposite directions each row so that we can get this alignment. Alright, so we're going to start with the center alignment. You can see this part is going to be very, very bulky. So this is where we want to make sure that our seams are pressed opposite directions, that our seams align and nest. You can kind of take your hands, kind of feel it, kind of push it together in both of those really bulky seams, and feel those kind of self-pin themselves, and that's how you know you have the right alignment. Alright, so you see you've got the center one sewn. These points were really, really tricky. We had to use the X marks to spot to make sure that we didn't blunt them. We're going to have to do the same thing with this point. If you look, you probably have about a 1/4 inch overhang. You're going to want to align it with this 1/4 inch overhang, and again, using the same trick, X marks the spot with your threads. And because we haven't clipped them, they're pretty much already pinned together, we're just going to align those points. Same thing, really, really lots of bulk here. We want them going opposite directions of one another so that it will lay flat, and that way you don't break any needles when you're long arm quilting it, machine quilting it. Same thing down here. You want to make sure that these interlock as well, and you can feel them locking and pulling into place. And that's how you know you have your seams in the right spot. Alright, our Ohio Star block is completed. We're just going to go to the iron now and press it so it lays flat. So a fun thing about this block, if you make 4 of them, sew them edge to edge, side to one another, side to side, next to each other, you can make that fun quilt that I have designed on the screen. It's really fun. And what's really funny is that it will make a 5th Ohio Star appear in the middle, as the blocks have a tendency to repeat each other like a tesseract. So it's kind of fun. I hope you can enjoy this project, and I hope you have a good time, and we will see you for our last block next time. Have a good day.